One of my favorite books is a book by Stephen Covey. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's a book I've read many times. And I think it's time that I read it again. He published this book in 1989. It was early in my career, and it helped guide me to make some decisions that maybe I wouldn't have made unless I read the book. One of them was to develop a mission statement to define where I'm going to go. The other one is how do I spend my time? Do I spend my time mindless, or do I spend my time in purposeful activities? Well, there's a story in the book that's very interesting. And it's a story about the time when he was riding a subway in New York City. And he's on the subway, and there's a man on the subway, and he has 3 young boys. And they're running around. They're out of control. They're not acting very well. And he's judging these people. He's judging this man. He's judging him because he's not a very good father. He's judging him because he thinks they should be controlling the children. The children are being very annoying. And we've all been in that situation, especially in public spaces, especially in a public space where we can't move, like a train car or maybe an airport lounge or something like that, where kids are running around. And you never know what people are going through. Well, after listening to this and being annoyed for about 5 minutes, he turns to the man. Stephen Covey turns to the man with the 3 boys. He says to him, could you try to control your boys? They're running around and they're making a lot of noise and they're disturbing some of the other people on a train. And the man turns to Stephen Covey and says, I'm sorry. We're just coming from their mother's funeral, and I guess they're a little upset. And at that moment, Stephen Covey felt so bad. He felt so bad because he didn't think that that person might have been in a space, very different space than the one he thought he was in. He was judging what he was doing. He was judging the man by the behavior around him. And that man had no control over that at that time. Now, why am I bringing up this story? I'm bringing it up because in our office, I'm a dentist, I'm a periodontist, and in my office, there's a tremendous amount of stress. People come in because they're afraid. They're afraid of getting hurt. They're afraid of the cost. They're afraid of pretty much the unknown. They're very unsafe. And not everybody acts very well when they're not feeling well. Some people do, some don't. In Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl talks about how the people who treated other people the best in concentration camps were the ones that survived the longer period of time. The people that shared their food as they were starving with other starving people did better than the ones that hoarded their food. So what does this mean for our practices? Well, in practice, when patients come at us and they're angry, or especially not so much me, but my team, my administrative team particularly, they may be coming from a place that we don't understand. And it brings me to a story of a woman. I'm not going to give you her name. This is not her real name. I'll say her name is Nancy. And she's been a patient of mine for about 20 years. And she's a difficult person. Matter of fact, she was so difficult that on her second day for a consultation, I asked her to leave the practice. I said, I don't think I can treat you because you're such a difficult person. You don't trust me. And of course, you know what happened. She didn't leave the practice. She said, I'm staying. When I tried to kick her out, she wouldn't leave. And I did it in a nice way, but she begged for me to treat her, and I treated her, which may or may not have been a mistake because she gave me a hard time for about 2 years as we were going through all the treatment. The story had a happy ending. She got a full mouth rehabilitation. She's doing very well. But on this particular day, Nancy was in, and she wasn't treating my staff well. She was getting her teeth cleaned. She hadn't had them cleaned in 2.5 years because of COVID. And I said, it's important that you get your teeth cleaned every 3 or 4 months, because she has a mouthful of implants and prosthetics. And she says, you just want my money. I said, no, I don't. I said, it's important that you get in here, just so we can maintain the investment that you've made. And she left, she stormed out of the hygiene room. She went to the front desk and she says, he's all about money. He just wants me to come in here. If I have no disease, if I have no periodontitis, if I have no pocket depth, why do I need to come back here? I'm out of here. And they got into a bit of a fight at the front desk. And I didn't know this because I wasn't part of the front desk conversation. So about an hour later, one of my front desk people comes in back to talk to me and said, Nancy ran out. She was angry, whatever. She goes, that's good. We don't want her back in the office because she can be sort of distasteful at times. But she also has a very nice side. And a little bit of the backstory, she's a widow. She's very outgoing. She's 80 years old, but she goes out every night. She sings in various bars and lounges and things like that. She's got a huge personality, but she also has the flip side of that. She can be also very difficult. But anyway, she has a very good side. And she lost one of her children before I started to treat her. So out of the 5 children, she only had 4 left. And she brings him up a lot. And she says he always talks, he's in heaven now, he's up with God. She brings that up and she mentions it to me. I said, good, I'm glad he's in a good space. And I have that kind of a conversation with her. I acknowledge the fact that she gets comfort because she's a religious person. Well, this day that she was very angry and she stormed out, my team says, we're done with Nancy. But as Danny Meyer says, I like to write the end of my own story. I don't want Nancy to run out. And after a 10-year relationship with her, even though it can be difficult, I don't want her running out there saying negative things about my office. But more importantly, I don't want her to be hurt and angry because I know she has a good side. So I called up Nancy and I said, Nancy, I don't really care about the money. I want you to stay healthy and this and that. And I'll send you some toothbrushes. And if you don't want to come in, I'll give you some plastic instruments so you can clean your implants at home if you want. I was trying to remove every barrier to rewrite the story. And she says, I'm sorry, I was a little upset. My son just died. Her son had died 12 hours before she was in my office, but she still came in to get her teeth cleaned. She was in shock. And I said, I'm so sorry. And this is the second child. So out of 5 children, this 80-year-old woman has 3 left. And she was very close to this son. And he died in his sleep. And we went to the wake the next night. And we spent a long time talking to Nancy. And she was so appreciative. She started crying and hugging me, told me how much she loved me, etc. It's a very different story ending than the one saying, Nancy, we don't want you in the practice. We want you out of there. Now, that's a dramatic example of how you never know what people are going through when you're talking to them. But I think about Nancy. I think about the man on the subway with the 3 children after his wife's funeral, because I never know what someone else is going through. When I walk into Starbucks, I don't know what the barista's gone through that day. Our patients don't know what we've gone to, but because we're professionals, because we're on stage, we have to show them our best selves. Patients don't always have the luxury of being able to do that because not everybody can handle their emotions, but we can. And it's a privilege to be able to sit there and work with those patients who are so sad because I never know where that sadness comes from. And if we can bring some joy and some understanding to their life and some empathy, then it's a whole different relationship. And isn't what it's all about, our relationships with our patients? So Nancy and I are still friends. She's going back to get her teeth cleaned in a few weeks. And we rewrote the story. We were the gift to Nancy, and she was appreciative. And maybe she'll be the gift to someone else. Have a great day, everybody, and thank you for listening.